Good morning, everybody. Steve Duraco, good morning. Sam Tobias, the pride of HEB. What is up? Luisa Alanis, good morning. Jason Paniagua, buenos dias. Buenos dias. A todos mis amigos. I'm working on the Spanish, man. 16. Un todo show en español. Cody Webb, good morning. Clint Proctor, 7 days of school remaining. Is it 7 or is it 5, Clint? This being Monday, and a week from today being Memorial Day. Laura Burris from the San Antonio Food Bank. Good morning, Laura. Chris Gonzalez, UT softball versus Oregon last night. Damn, I am tired. Did that go late? I'm assuming that went late. Oh, I see what's happening there. Okay. Interesting. Here we come. Goes a little bit something like this.
Duel show. You know a day destroys the night. Night divides the day. Try to run, try to hide, break on. Now, Chris Duke.
Welcome in on a Monday. Sometimes we call it a manic Monday, but this might just be a Mickelson Monday. My goodness gracious. What a performance by Phil Mickelson in the PGA Championship. What a weekend of sports. PGA Championship, upsets galore in the NBA playoffs. NASCAR at COTA. Austin FC watch party at High Five with Shannon Salty Sweeney. Maybe we should start there and check in with Shannon. Shannon, how are you this morning?
I am tired after a good watch party for a game that starts at 8 o'clock on a Sunday night, but had a lot of fun. People at High Five always take care of us over there. We only had a couple people hit the bullseye. It's a lot harder, I think, than people realize.
Yeah.
Hit that bullseye on the axe throw. But I'm glad people came out. I'm looking forward to the next one. It's good to be out and about amongst the people once again.
And how did Austin FC perform last night against Nashville?
Not great. I believe the final score was 1-0. It looked like they had come back to knock one in the second half, but unfortunately it was called offsides. So another L on the board, but
1-0
games left.
Yeah, I mean, if that was 3-0 or you're a goal away from getting back in that sucker.
Yeah.
So, and again, first time startup franchise in MLS, and they're right there in a lot of these games. So I think in general, while we'd love them to win all the time and we'd love them to win consistently, probably things somewhat on track given they are so new to this league and not an expansion per se, but a startup, a new franchise in Major League Soccer. Congratulations to you, Shannon Salty Sweeney. Beating me in a fantasy golf tournament ain't no big thing. Beating Tanner Carlson, kind of impressive. He, like you, very much into the golf scene. But when you beat Andy Everett, the golf guru, the oracle of all that is golf, and he will be joining us coming up in the 8 o'clock hour, and we'll see what he has to say for himself. We each drafted 3 golfers, and you ran away with the championship yesterday. Congratulations.
Well, thank you. I wish I could sit up here and talk smack, but that tournament was absolutely insane. Everyone seemed to have a hard time unless your name was Phil Mickelson. Of course, none of us were smart enough to pick him. But it's such a hard course. I mean, I think we were all over the place at one point of who was leading, and then it was never by much. So insane.
And it looked as though, for a while there, Brooks Koepka jumped ahead of him, and it looked like, it seemed like it was a nice dream that this 50-year-old was going to win the thing, and then it looked like it was slipping away from him, and then all of a sudden he comes back.
Yeah.
So
it's interesting that so many people are talking about his age, and I get it. He's the oldest to win that tournament. But also, I think a lot of people still think of golf as like an old man's game. So it's interesting that it's like, oh, look at him. He's geriatric and everything. He's still out there doing it. It's like, well, I mean, it's kind of an old man's game, so let's calm down a little bit. Just because the stars of the golf world these days are a little bit younger. I think that's just because of where we are with media and, hitting the ball as far and as hard as you can.
Well, but
be the younger guys.
Well, and while you kind of downplay it as an old man's game, I mean, for him to be at 50, the only guy at that age to win a major PGA tournament like this, that's still pretty darn good. It's amazing and historic.
I almost sent you a clip over the weekend. That was really great interaction that he had with a really young fan. The fan happened to be dressed almost exactly like a Ricky Fowler, like all the Puma gear, all the bright colors.
Yeah.
But he's standing along the course, and Phil's got his ball over there, and Phil, he's talking to Phil, and Phil's like, "What would you play?" And the kid just immediately, he's like, "Well, I would use my 3-wood and lay it up here." And he was like, "What?" And then he did it, and he hit a great shot, and he was like, "You can caddy for me anytime."
That's great.
So it was great also to see fans have interactions like that, and then the masses that were following Phil from the end of the tournament yesterday.
Yeah. And again, COVID, a lot of the CDC restrictions saying if you've been vaccinated, you don't have to wear a mask. A lot of people, their lives getting back to normal. We saw this a little bit in some of the NBA arenas over the weekend in this first game of the NBA playoffs officially. But yeah, I mean, on that course in South Carolina, Shannon, it was people were out en masse, and they were, I mean, especially at the end, I mean, they were kind of swarming Phil Mickelson. It was kind of after a year of COVID and just sparse crowds everywhere, including on the PGA Tour. That was kind of nice to see.
Well, and Brooks Koepka was not here for it.
No.
They didn't give he used some words we can't say on the radio about him. They didn't really care. There's also apparently a theory out there that he was having a knee issue and that someone hit him in his knee on purpose.
Wow. That's crazy.
Like, are we at the Olympics in the 90s? What's happening?
Yeah. Where was Tanya Harding and Jeff Gillooly yesterday? Yeah. Were they involved?
We do. Yeah. We need to account for their whereabouts.
Well, and I would think, and I don't know, maybe there's some video footage. Everything's on video now, especially for like a Brooks Koepka. If a fan hit him in the knee accidentally, wouldn't there be somebody had a camera phone on him, or one of the network cameras were on him, especially because he was in contention so much. So I don't know that. I mean, I haven't seen that footage with that allegation, but certainly if it did happen, and if a fan did intentionally, hit him in the knee, then that fan needs to be found and outed and banned from the PGA, banned from ever going out on a PGA golf course as a fan again.
Yeah, I don't know if it's fair to him fair for him to assume that that's why he didn't win the tournament.
Yeah,
like, you got to give your props to Phil. who put together a great run when most people were just struggling to hit par in that tournament.
And I wonder, in a weird way, Shannon, Tiger Woods, who had all of these rivalries with Phil Mickelson, often it came down to Phil and Tiger. And I just wonder if this kind of gives Tiger a little more juice for his comeback to see Phil Mickelson at 50 winning a major. I wonder if that, as I'm sure, it's hard for Tiger to have any more fire than Tiger has. But I wonder if this just gives him a little extra something going, whoa, Phil has thrown down the gauntlet. I really got to come back and get this guy.
You'd think, you mentioned how much of a competitor Tiger is. That's what great competitors do. They always find something that'll get them going. How old is Tiger?
God, I got to Google that. Keep talking, and I will.
I know Phil
I will go Google
50, that. Closer to 51.
I'm guessing 45, but I don't know. I'm going to tell you in a sec.
Maybe, but yeah, and we it's.
Thank God for Google. 45.
45.
He'll turn 46 December 30th.
I don't know how his recovery's going, or what that's looking like, but you'd think, yeah, for sure.
So 6 years from now, Tiger can win a major at 51 and say, "Take that, Phil Mickelson. I now have the record."
Yeah. And by that time, I don't think Phil will be playing anymore.
Probably not. Let's see. He'll be 56. So, but then again, we live in the era of Tom Brady, and part of it, Shannon, I'm an old guy, so I like my old guys. So add Phil Mickelson to the list along with Mr. Tom Brady and the aging, and we'll get into this as well. And he did it again. LeBron James at 36. LeBron did another drama queen fall to the floor as if he had been shot. I like LeBron. I don't dislike him vehemently like so many sports fans do, but 2 games in a row now, 2 postseason games in a row, and he gives us the Academy away. He's living in L.A. Maybe now that Kobe won an Oscar for making a movie, maybe LeBron wants to win one for acting.
I've got some perspective for you on that.
Cool.
I saw a graphic yesterday after he dramatically fell to the floor again. And this one went back to last week when he was dramatically on the floor. He was on that floor for 80 seconds when he got poked in the eye, rolling around.
Yeah.
Our friend Pillar, the baseball player who got hit in the face with a 94 mile per hour fastball.
Yeah.
34 seconds on the ground.
Oh, wow. What a stat that is. My goodness. 34 to 80.
LeBron going the extra mile.
Yeah. Pillar ain't looking too good either. Tell you who may be looking good. Anybody who wins $1,000. It is 620. We do this at 620 and 720. In fact, we do it throughout the day on the 20s 12 times. It is the Grand in Your Hand cash contest. You're going to get a keyword right now. You take that keyword, you go to either website, wherever you're listening to the show, AM 1300 The Zone or Ticket 760. Put the keyword in the appropriate place where you see to click, and you're in the running for $1,000. Here comes the keyword.
Right now, here's your chance to win $1,000. Just enter this nationwide keyword on our website. Budget. That's budget. Enter it now.
Budget, and I hope your budget increases by $1,000. Because somebody's going to win it. It may as well be you. So much to talk about from the weekend in sports, Shannon. And for people new to the show, we stream live video on Ticket 760 and AM 1300 The Zone's Facebook pages. You can get in there as well through YouTube. You can get in there as well through Twitch. We put video links out via Twitter at Ticket 760, at AM 1300 The Zone. Our good friend Jason Paniagua, who is joining us on Facebook Live right now and won tickets on the show to go see NASCAR at COTA. 2 things. One, rain limited the total number of laps, I think from something like 68 to 54. And Jason, we were talking about masks and, more of the crowd showing up and more people showing up maskless at sporting events. He said maybe 10% of the people were wearing masks at COTA yesterday. But you're up in Austin hearing any buzz about NASCAR? I heard some rave reviews for Matthew McConaughey as the master of ceremonies.
Yeah, I missed the official start of the race, but did tune in shortly after. Huge wreck in like the 28th lap where there was a car on fire. Everything was kind of paused for a good long moment. They are also racing in the rain, which is kind of cool and also like really heightens the danger effect of everything. Yeah, I hope it'll be back. I hope it'll be back when more people can go out there and experience it, and maybe some better weather. And it's always cool to see, pre-shows when they highlight Austin,
Yeah.
and everything around there. There's 3 drivers with the name of Austin, so they did a bit where they were pretending that everything named Austin was theirs. And I was like, that's a little overcooked on that one, but I see where you're going, and I admire the effort.
Very nice. Made me think of former Cowboy wide receiver Miles Austin. Wonder whatever happened to that guy.
Well,
Wasn't
he dated Kim Kardashian. That's what happened to that
Yeah.
guy.
Well, and see, and there was that string where when you would date, if you were an athlete and you would date a Kardashian, your career would tank. And as you document, that could have been the death knell for Miles Austin.
I mean, Tristan Thompson's still,
Yeah,
he's still in that web.
he is. Is he still a Cavalier? Where is Tristan Thompson these days?
He's a
I've lost. Oh, that's right. Yeah, I'm losing track. So, congrats NBA playoffs, and we'll get into it. Upsets galore.
Oh, yes.
In fact, it is our poll question this morning. It has to do with these NBA upsets. Do you care to reveal our poll question, Shannon?
Yeah, which NBA Game 1 loser is most likely to get bounced from the first round of the playoffs? We've got the Clippers and Jazz tied at 7%, Knicks at 35%, and Lakers at 50%.
Woo!
As a Mavs fan, I'd love it to be the Clippers.
Me too.
I'm gonna keep it real, and I voted for the Knicks. Knicks haven't been in this position for a while. I don't know if they're ready for it.
That's a good choice, given playoff experience. A couple of things occur to me. First of all, congratulations to your Mavericks. I watched that game. I hate to admit it. I've still got some issues with Kawhi. He blew up my favorite basketball team. So I don't want to. He's had plenty of success since Toronto, LA. So I did like, and you got to like this about the Mavericks now. That was a road win. So now the Clippers have to win 4 out of 6, and they have to win 1 in Dallas. And my understanding is, there's going to be a whole lot more fans based on Texas regulations in Dallas than there are at Staples Center. So a lot of things going the Mavericks' way coming away with Game 1 there.
Yeah, it should be exciting. And as a Mavs fan, I couldn't be happier. We've already got home court advantage. I didn't think we would get that.
Meanwhile, the Memphis Grizzlies, a team that the Spurs just lost to by 4, 196. They go on, they beat the Golden State Warriors. Now they win Game 1 at Utah against the number 1 seeded Jazz, the team with the best record in the NBA, the Utah Jazz. 2 things occur to me. Number 1, all year long, we looked at the Jazz having the best record in the NBA, and I said it, you said it, the Jazz, until they demonstrate something in the playoffs, that number 1 seed doesn't necessarily impress us. They're down 0-1 now to Memphis, and then Memphis, now having won 3 in a row, having won 2 play-in games in a row, coming in as the 9 seed, it kind of, to a certain extent, justifies. I know LeBron James said he hated the play-in series and that whoever came up with it should be fired. It kind of justifies, to a certain extent, the play-in tournament is kind of a cool thing.
Yeah, and I mean the Grizzlies' whole motto is grit and grind, and that's exactly what they're doing, kind of clawing their way through this playoff series so far and through the play-in tournament. And it's part of when the NBA is at its best. I think it's teams like that really allow it to shine.
Coming up, we will introduce your Soundscape stylist with his very, very cool T-shirt that you'll be able to see on Facebook Live, Mr. Super Dave Ayler. Also coming up, the high 5 play of the day has to do with a Texas global athlete. We'll let you know what is going on there. A little bit later, 7 o'clock hour, Shannon's Salty Shakedown, sports history, sports birthdays, our golf guru, Andy Everett. In the 8 o'clock hour, we'll talk more PGA Championship. We are talking NBA playoffs. We will get into the NFL because we should. NASCAR at COTA, Austin FC, and San Antonio FC. They win in soccer to San Antonio FC over the weekend. I'm seeing some people citing that. Apparently a late goal by San Antonio FC at Toyota Field. So least one of the soccer teams gets a win. We'll get into everything in the world of sports, including your phone calls, 800-707-9760. If you want to join us, you are always welcome on the phone lines, 800-707-9760. She is Shannon Salty Sweeney. I'm Chris. We're with you till 9 on the Chris Duel Show. Julio Reyes. Let's see. Rudy, I didn't know that. Rudy Renee says, an early ass whip, I know it isn't Taylor, to the AAL for canceling the playoffs and championship games. The San Antonio Gunslingers are top in the division. That is so awful, Rudy. And San Antonio, we are so snake bit when it comes to these football leagues. It sucks. John Williams, I do very much remember, and I was in the AT&T Center when the 8-seeded Grizzlies upset the Spurs in the first round. And one of the reasons was the one game that they won in San Antonio, Manu was out. I mean, no excuse. But when Manu came back, the Spurs started playing very, very well in that series. But yeah, anytime you're a number 1 seed and you lose to an 8 seed, not a lot of excuses there. But here we go for the Jazz. It is gut check time for the Utah Jazz. Jason Garcia said SAFC beat Austin Bold. Okay, now why is my Twitter not up? Let's see. I'm going to grab coffee. I will be back. Okay, there it is. Twitter's freaking me out. Yep. Sam, as did every other minor sports league that a San Antonio team has been in. All right. Back in a sec. Julio Reyes, good morning. Good morning, everybody on Facebook. Jason Garcia. John Paul Albert. Did y'all catch the clip on the previous oldest at age 48 was at Pecan Valley in San Antonio? Wow, John, I didn't know that. Louisa says, congrats to Texas baseball winning the Big 12. John Paul Albert saying that was 1968 when a 48-year-old won at Pecan Valley. Yeah, I remember, Jason, Pecan Valley was a big deal. Let's see, I need to email myself something here. Let's see. My heart. Coffee, thank you. I feel better. Chris Duel show on a rainy Monday morning in South and Central Texas, May 24th, 2021, 1 week away from Memorial Day. So Memorial Day weekend will be our reward for getting through this week. And as often as we mention Memorial Day, and I'm sure we will as Memorial Day weekend gets closer, now we also remind you to remember the meaning of Memorial Day and those men and women who answered our country's call and paid the highest sacrifice with their lives. And we honored them and we mourn them and we thank them on Memorial Day. I'm sure we'll talk more about that as Memorial Day gets closer. Chris Duel show along with Shannon Salty Sweeney in a moment. The high five play of the day. But Shannon, I'm so rude. We'll go through the whole segment. Without him, there'd be no audio. There'd be no show because I have no idea what buttons to push. All I know is I talk into the stick and somehow it goes out over the airwaves. He is our lovely and talented soundscape stylist, Super Dave Ayler. Dave, what is up, man?
How you doing, Chris?
I'm good.
Did you have a good weekend?
I did have a good weekend. A lot of the teams that I wanted to see lose, especially the Clippers, lost. So
that always makes things good. Yeah. All the California teams lose.
But Astros got pretty much swept by the Texas Rangers. I didn't like that. Astros have lost 3 in a row. So it's a mixed bag. How about you? How was your weekend?
It's good. Blues are out of the playoffs, so but not that they were going to win Stanley Cup again anyway.
So what happened? How did they get bounced? Was it they get swept?
Yeah,
What
they
was
got
their?
swept by the Avalanche, by Colorado, and they were lucky to make the playoffs, so I wasn't too disappointed.
Well, they so recently won the Stanley Cup. What, like 2 years ago?
Yeah, 2019.
Wow.
Can't win it every year.
True, but
And Cardinals lost, gave up 2 to the Cubs over the weekend, so that wasn't good. So, but they took 1. I'll take it, I guess.
yeah.
It's still early.
Your T-shirt, very, very interesting. It's like a baseball font, and it says "Suicidal Slam City Tour" with lucky number 13. You care to elaborate on that?
Suicidal Tendencies.
Oh,
The band Slam City Tour 2013 at Backstage Live
Nice.
with San Antonian Dean Pleasance playing lead guitar.
I did not know a San Antonian
Yes.
was the lead guitarist for Suicidal Tendencies.
Been in the band for 15, 16 years now.
My
It's
goodness.
been a long time.
See, if the shirt said Suicidal Tendencies, I would have known.
But it says it on the back.
Oh, okay. Well, it's very cool.
Thank you.
You continue to impress with your T-shirt game.
I do what I can.
Yes. How many like concert / band T-shirts do you have?
Oh, wow. I've never counted. I'd say 50.
50. My
I'd say
goodness.
around there. Maybe not quite that many, but 40
Very
to
good.
50. Not all of them fit anymore because some from are my days in high school. I'm too fat to wear them now.
But you never know. It's like I've got old T-shirts. I think my oldest T-shirt is a 1984 San Antonio Gunslingers T-shirt.
Wow.
That interestingly, and I've posted the photo before, I was wearing it one day at Dallas Cowboys training camp in Thousand Oaks, California, a year later in 1985, and took a photo with Tom Landry, which is like, I love Tom Landry. So it's like one of my prized possessions is this photo. And there I am representing the San Antonio Gunslingers of the USFL. But I hold up that shirt now. I can't believe I was that tiny. It's a large, but it looks like a medium or a small. But I keep it in hopes that someday I might lose 50 pounds and be able to fit into it like an idiot.
That's kind of what I'm hoping for too. And I just keep them just, memory too. I go, oh yeah, I remember going to that concert when I was 16.
Yeah. All righty. Shannon, Salty, Sweeney, it is time for the high five play of the day. Got a little music that goes with it, which is oh so appropriate. Speaking of high five, if you were in Austin last night, you should have been at High Five with Shannon and the watch party. And you were with another radio luminary last night.
Yes, Ann Hudson of Kiss FM and Case FM here in Austin.
Woo.
It was nice to see her. We haven't gotten to hang out a whole lot. She's actually been doing her shows from home. So it was nice to get to spend some time with her. We had a great time, and I had a fantastic burger. It was a double cheeseburger.
Ooh.
So good. And tonight's Monday, which means it's $5 specialty burger nights. So if you're a burger fan like myself, I highly recommend checking out either their specialty burger or any of the amazing burgers that they have on their menu over there at High Five. All right, you hinted at it. We're shouting out a Texan this morning for the High Five play of the day, Miss Simone Biles, who competed for the first time in 587 days. Thanks, pandemic. Thank you so much. She, of course, was preparing for the Olympics, and in this competition did something that no woman has ever done before, and she made it look so easy, too. She landed a Yurchenko double pike in competition. We've got it up on our Twitter feed. It's basically just like way too many flips in the air. Like, it doesn't seem humanly possible that she could come down and land so perfectly, and yet she didn't. And the best part of all of this is if you paid attention to the leotard she was wearing, on the back, right above her scorer's number, there's a goat on there, Chris.
Whoa!
She has a bedazzled goat.
A bedazzled goat. That's even better than just a goat.
On
It was
her
a
leotard.
bedazzled goat.
It's fantastic. She knows it, and everyone else knows it, and we're all okay with it.
Yeah. Wow.
I
And
love it.
And what I love is I just Googled her. She's 24 years old. And as you mentioned, getting ready for Tokyo. And what's weird about gymnasts is, most of them are 18-ish,
Yeah.
20-ish, 17-ish. So on a certain level, and it sounds crazy for someone who's ancient like me that a 24-year-old might be questionable as a as a force in gymnastics, but clearly if she's able to do this, which is pretty much unprecedented, she's on top of her game. So she's not just wearing a bedazzled goat on her leotard, she is pretty much the bedazzled goat.
Yeah, and when they postponed last year's Olympics, that was one of my questions, or what are all these gymnasts going to do who, in some countries, I think they even say, like, there just is an age limit, right? Like, you just know, like, you're too old. And I mean, for her, it looks like she spent all the quarantine just doing gymnastics, which is great. I love that she represents the US of A when she heads to the Olympics. And, it's like having Tom Brady on your team, right?
Yeah.
You love him. And then I'm sure anybody else is like, oh, I got to go against her. Can I have anybody else in the world? But I have to go against Simone Biles. So a high five to her for landing that incredible trick. There's no way that if she lands that in the Olympics that she doesn't win just automatically.
Yeah.
It's a trick no one else can do.
Well, and again, though, we talked about this last week, Shannon, these Tokyo Olympics. Now, I haven't heard another update, but I know that as of last week, first you have people protesting, lots of people taking to the streets of Tokyo saying, nope, either cancel them or postpone them. And I think the official word now is there's not going to be like a 2022. If they don't come off beginning late July this summer, they're moving on away from Tokyo. But now the latest thing, and we talked about it late last week. Now you've got a coalition of Japanese and Tokyo doctors saying this is not a good idea. We should not do this. So, and it's so weird because here in the United States, and even on the way in this morning, I'm listening to national news radio talking about the pandemic, and numbers are down from last summer. The low is about as low, if not lower, than it was last summer, and deaths are down. So numbers are down, infections are down, deaths are down in the United States. Yet there are places like India where it's exploding, and apparently in Tokyo and in Japan, it's still a big problem. So I think, and if they're going to pull the plug, I would imagine they got to do it pretty quickly. So many people have plans. I don't know. I don't want Simone Biles to miss an opportunity like she did a year ago. And you know me, I want to see Greg Popovich lead Team USA to the Olympic gold as well. So gosh, there's just so much that could be missed if they cancel these Tokyo Olympics.
Yeah, I agree with you that they need to come up with a definitive answer, especially, I mean, gosh, it's almost June. May has just flown by. And you think of all the money they've sunk in, right, to get ready for the Olympics, and that they've had to continue to sink in as far as promotion and preparing and adding the changes so everyone is safe who does attend should it happen. But I also agree that you can't push it to 2022 because then you're 2 years out from the next Summer Olympics. Then it's happening 6 months after the Winter Olympics, which are coming up next February.
Yeah.
So yeah, you have to scrap it at that point. And I haven't looked at the numbers, but I'm sure it's very, very high for how much they're in for these Olympics.
What it would seem to me, okay, last summer, coronavirus in the States was exploding. So the NBA does the bubble in Orlando, and by all accounts, it was wildly successful. Granted, I know the Olympics, many, many more venues, many, many more athletes, much greater in scope than what the NBA was able to accomplish in the bubble. But it would seem to me the NBA bubble would be a template for the Tokyo Olympics. It's like, all right, what did they do right at the NBA bubble? To what extent can we replicate that in Tokyo for another, athletic event, in this case, the Olympics? It would seem to me that there has been a demonstration, and it was the Orlando NBA bubble, that you can do it and people can stay safe.
Well, let me pose this question to you. As you mentioned that in the different venues, what if they said, all right, we can kind of create our own bubble with these venues that we've built, but they're built for, we've got the swim center, we've got the basketball arena, we've got the main arena in gymnastics. But these other things, these other sports like beach volleyball, like that's too far out of the zone. We can handle these sports and hold the Olympics with these sports, but some of these sports are not going to get their shot. Would you be like, all right, at least we're getting an Olympics? Or would you be like, that's not fair, all or nothing?
I wouldn't, I think the pandemic taught us, Shannon, we can't necessarily have all or nothing. I think sometimes compromises have to be made. Ideally, I would like it all to come off, but if indeed it came down to that, and you make an interesting point, but like with beach volleyball, it would seem because that's typically outdoors.
Yeah, and you're pretty separated.
Yeah, but I'm sure there are other examples of lesser sports that don't, the infrastructure might not. Yeah. So, and you know what? You may be prophetic on that. It would seem to me that the decision makers in Tokyo, as they get to a drop dead date, is, and so they probably know what it is, but they just haven't revealed it. They probably know
there's going to be uproar either way.
Yeah. They probably know it's like, hey man, we got to by June 14th or whatever the date is, we've got to, we're either, should we stay or should we go? Should we pull the plug? But I would think also part of that equation certainly might be a scaled down Olympics. What could we handle and what could we not handle? So, and then that would also kind of save face a little bit. You would certainly crush the dreams of a lot of athletes if their sports were canceled, but you would also be able to say, hey man, we did everything we could. We utilized what we could with the precautions we could, and we determined we can do these sports, but we can't do these other sports. I think you may be onto something.
And then maybe, just maybe, if they did most of the Olympics, but a few of those sports, that if things continued to get better, that within time they could, hold those competitions for those particular sports. And I also think, we talked about the economic impact just for Tokyo, but even like advertisers, I'm watching PGA Championship this weekend and some NBA basketball playoffs, and there's so many commercials with Olympians as we prepare, and all these advertisers, are writing in their entire summer campaigns with Olympians. And what do you do if this, they talk about the Olympics and how they're prepping, and that's why they use this product. And okay, well, what happens if it gets canceled? Do they have to scrap that and start something else? And there's so many things that, just keep popping up in my head that we haven't even thought about with the implications of whether or not this event goes on.
Going to be very, very fascinating. And again, the cautionary tale, I think, for all of us here in the States, we're starting to feel very comfortable. I see Don Holding, our good friend Haas, the wrestler, says the crowd at the golf event yesterday says we are done with the pandemic in the USA. And yes, that was a huge crowd at the PGA Championship. But knowing what we know about pandemics in general and this pandemic in particular, and now the variations, as long as there are hot spots around the country and as long as we have global air travel, it just takes one person traveling into the United States to spread the darn thing. And I think it could flare up again. I hope not. I am encouraged and thankful for the way things are looking in this country right now when it comes to the pandemic. But it's scary. It is absolutely scary. All right. Coming up, we got lots more to talk about. I want to get more into the NBA playoffs. It is the poll question of the day. There were 4 favored teams that lost game number 1. So we're asking you which of those 4 teams is most likely to be bounced from the first round of the NBA playoffs. Is it the Jazz? Is it the Knicks? Is it the Clippers? Or is it the Lakers? I don't know either. So we will see. Certainly, man, if it is the Clippers or if it is the Lakers, especially the Lakers, I would imagine Commissioner Adam Silver and the networks and everybody going to be just. Oh, and speaking of pandemic, I want to get into this. LeBron James does a little tequila event, violates protocols, but the NBA goes, we'll let you play game 1 because you're LeBron. I kind of, as much as I'm a LeBron guy, I kind of wanted the NBA to make a statement and say, dude, even you, the King James, are not above it. If you violate our NBA protocols when it comes to the virus, then sit. And the NBA didn't do it. And Charles Barkley said they didn't have the cojones to do it, although he didn't speak Spanish. We'll get into that and a whole lot more. She is Shannon Salty Sweeney. Dave Ayler making the show go with you till 9 on the Chris Duel Show. Sam Tobias, what if? Yeah, what if all of the above did get bounced? That is theoretically possible. Okay, I need to see if I can edit something here real quick. Chris Duel here for the sinus and snoring specialist. I am breathing better. I am not snoring. My wife is happier about that. I had a balloon sinuplasty, a non-surgical procedure in office. It helps eliminate recurring sinus infections, sinus headaches, reduces congestion and snoring. It's 15 minutes and it's pain-free. And I am breathing so much better. And I am loving my life so much more. Listen, you don't have to live with sinus, allergy, snoring, or sleep issues. The sinus and snoring specialists are here to help. Magnificent people. Dr. Daniel Slaughter and his staff, so caring. They take care of you every step of the way and let you know exactly what the procedure is. Check out the website, sinussnoringent.com, and give them a call. 512-601-0303. That's 512-601-0303. I'm so glad I learned about them. You will be too. The sinus and snoring specialists. You don't have to live with sinus, allergy, snoring, or sleep issues. Call the sinus and snoring specialists. Website, sinussnoringent.com, and the phone number, 512-601-0303. Sinus and snoring specialists. You don't have to live with sinus, allergy, snoring, or sleep issues. Call the sinus and snoring specialists. Website, sinussnoringent.com, and the phone number, 512-601-0303. Sinus and snoring specialists. I gotta tell you about. Wes Perkins, good morning. Carl Fisher, one more week before second evaluation on my ankle fusion. Hope that goes well. Jason, I want to wish my mom, Diane Merle, a happy birthday today. Let me know when you're going to play that song that was requested, and I'll be sure to tag it with a happy birthday. Okay. Remind me in case it slips my mind. Cool. Okay, thanks. So, Jason, yeah, we're going to do that. Bottom of the hour is what Dave just said. In the comments, though, we're going to go with the DJ Khalid song at 7:30. You got a private comment there from Shannon, so we'll move it to maybe 8:30. Yep. All right. So, Jason, it looks like 8:30 now. That was already wired in. Wes Perkins says, all I know is I'm rooting for all the super teams to get beat in the playoffs. Yep. I can see that. And wouldn't that be nice? Yeah. How about Phoenix versus Milwaukee in the final? Although Phoenix, not really a super team. They added Chris Paul in free agency. I'd rather see Utah, given the Spurs connections, than Phoenix. Although Monty Williams, my God, what he's been through. Let me check something here. All right, so there's that. Here we come.
This is the Chris Duel Show. The day, try to run.
Greg Helt, good morning.
Now, Chris Duel.
Welcome in on a Monday. You could call it a Manic Monday. We might call it a Mickelson Monday. 50-year-old get off his green, Phil Mickelson winning the PGA Championship, the first 50-year-old plus winner of a major in the PGA. Welcome in. It's the Chris Duel Show, along with Shannon Salty Sweeney. Shannon stayed up late last night. She was at High Five at the Austin FC watch party. Did you stay for the entire match? Were you there until the bitter end?
I stayed a little after my, I guess, allotted time because I did have some friends come out and we played some arcade games for a little bit. I had to spend some time with them after my official time there was done. And as I was leaving, Austin FC had just scored, so
Woo!
I got in the car on the way home and was like, "Oh, we're back in it. Like, I'm gonna go home and we're gonna win this thing." And I get home and I turn the game on, and that goal has been taken off the board.
Damn it!
And I find out it had been offsides. So for a minute there, I was like, we're in it. This is great. This is amazing.
Darn it.
At this point, I'm just wanting goals.
Yeah. But again, and I know there are no moral victories, but, cut Austin FC some slack. They're in, even the ones they've won some, but even the matches they're losing, they're in it, and just one goal and you're in it.
And today at 10 o'clock, there is a press conference where they will announce the attendance for game 1 coming up, and I'm sure the attendance that they'll allow for the U.S. Women's National Team game just days before the first Austin FC home game. So that's something to look for today. Now,
obviously, the city of Austin a little more progressive than Arlington, Texas, but still the capital of Texas. That's where Governor Greg Abbott is, and Texas has opened up. What is your? We go back famously that Texas Rangers opening day game at Global Life Field, their new sparkling ballpark, wide open, full capacity. Do you expect that at Q2 Stadium for Austin FC's first game?
I do.
Okay.
Because, Texas Athletics announced last week that they were going back to 100% full capacity, and they had such a crowd at the last regular season homestand against West Virginia. So I would expect it to be the same there, especially if there's nothing saying they can't do it. It's their first game ever at home. This is like the biggest thing in the city. I think I'll be at High Five that day, though. I think that's when our next watch party is. So for the 18,000 people that are on the wait list for tickets, along with anybody else who didn't get tickets, there's a lot of us. Come hang out that day. It'll be a good time. First home opener. Wear your jerseys. They released a blue jersey last week.
No.
That's like recycle.
Yeah.
Made of recycled material. It's pretty awesome looking. I really want one.
Speaking of jerseys, and first of all, okay, Austin FC is new, but I see them in the green Yeti jerseys. Mm-hmm. This is where I'm like, get off my lawn traditional. And this is why I say, God bless you, Texas Longhorns. You generally don't mess with the iconic look of your football team.
Left tried.
My USC Trojans, I thank God we're in the same conference, the Pac-12, is Oregon, and Oregon famously is always changing their uniforms and their helmets. I like when you find something classic and iconic, stay with it. USC does that. The Dallas Cowboys, for the most part, Jerry Jones does mess with it now and then with the throwbacks, but the Cowboys have such an iconic look. I'm watching the Miami Heat game, and I thought it was the Indiana Pacers. The Miami Heat were wearing yellow uniforms. I just think, and I guess it's a money grab in the NBA. I guess it's the reason they do it is that, more of your fans are going to buy different jerseys, but the Heat were playing the Bucks, and the Bucks are in their green, and the Miami Heat, all of these years, we've either seen them in black or red or in their whites. But why in the hell would the Miami Heat wear yellow? It's like, what, should the Spurs wear purple? Hey man, we don't have a purple Spurs jersey. Why not? Let's wear purple. It's ridiculous.
I very much agree, especially during the playoffs when you have these iconic moments. I mean, when we sat there and we watched The Last Dance and they talked about those 6 NBA championships and the runs that came along with them, you did not see the Bulls in some color of the week jersey.
Yes.
All those iconic pictures, they are in their iconic, red or the black with the red trim. Like that's what you get. Could you imagine if the Heat were to say win the finals this year and they did it in a yellow uniforms, and then 10 years down the line, we'd probably be thinking, like you said, the Pacers.
Yeah.
Who are these people?
You have colors for a reason. And I guess this is where we are. And I get, and I see Jason Garcia just jumped in and said the SAFC Fiesta jersey is a must-have. The Spurs have a Fiesta uniform, which is cool, and I understand a specialty uniform.
But that's still like throwback, isn't it?
Say again?
That one's pretty throwback for the Spurs.
Kind of, yeah. They never had the jerseys, but they had warm-ups, and they had this like Fiesta multicolored Fiesta color logo. So yes, you can argue it is throwback. But what my deal with that is, and why I'm willing to live with it, in addition to the fact they're kind of cool uniforms, but they're in that case you're doing something that's about the city. It's like, all right, what's a big thing that San Antonio does? Fiesta. It's colorful. It's like confetti. It's all the colors of the rainbow. It's kind of neon. I get it. But when I guess Heat is yellow. I guess the Miami Heat, I guess the sun is yellow. So maybe that's the justification, but that hasn't been your color. That hasn't been your look. And I know I'm an old man, get off my lawn, just, screaming at the television screen on Saturday, but I just thought it was ridiculous.
I mean, I love the one-offs during the season, and when they do like cancer awareness or things like that.
Yeah.
But even the Heat's, you're talking about the Spurs, the city uniforms, where you're like, you get it, you get where that comes from, and then the Heat have this like Miami Vice, bright pink, powder blue mixed jersey.
Yeah.
You thought that was a lot this season, especially when they added the court on top of it.
Yes.
And now they do this. What's happening?
I don't like it. Tradition, darn it. So anyway, the Heat, good. They lost to the Bucks. This is the other thing that hit me. And I guess this was always the case, Shannon, but I'm watching that game between the Bucks and the Heat, and down the stretch in the final couple of minutes, and it was actually throughout the fourth quarter and throughout the game, Giannis Antetokounmpo, the Greek freak, is an atrocious free throw shooter. Mm-hmm. He is a liability. Somebody even, I even tweeted, I said, I had no idea that Giannis was such a horrible free throw shooter. And then somebody tweeted back at me, then why did they even put the ball in his hands in the final couple of minutes? Because he's Giannis. Because you put the ball in his hands, there's a good chance he's going to drive to the hoop and slam dunk it, or he's going to make a jump shot. But to me, Shannon, and Jakob Poeltl of the Spurs, a Spurs big man, obviously nowhere near as talented as Giannis, but he was an atrocious free throw shooter much of his career and even beginning this season. So what Jakob did was he started showing up early, 35 or 45 minutes before practice, and staying late, and with a coach working on free throws. And Jakob Poeltl significantly increased his free throw percentage. I just think for a player of Giannis's talent, and obviously he's one of the most talented players in the NBA, for him to be an atrocious free throw shooter, I think is inexcusable. I mean, you are a You're the face of that franchise. You're a superstar. You're the hope for that franchise, and you can't figure out free throws, which is mainly a mental thing. I mean, you played the game, Shannon. The more free throws you shoot in practice, the more you figure out the technique of shooting a free throw, the better you can perform shooting free throws in a game. I think it's pretty simple, especially when it comes to a very good free throw shooter. He was 6 of 13. From the free throw line. That is sub 500. That is leaving 7 points off the board in a game the Bucks win by 2 and could have lost to the Miami Heat by virtue of his missing free throws.
I mean, we talked about it during the Texas basketball season. For whatever reason, we have moved away from practicing our free throws and then making our free throws when they are needed most and when they count the most. And when we go back and look at the score sheet after a loss and say, oh, that's where all the points were left. They were free, but we left them there. We left them hanging. This whole big man like Giannis and then Dwight Howard, who has had his worst percentages shooting free throws the past couple of years. Shaq was notorious for shooting bricks from the line. I don't know maybe when you're way up there, like it looks different from you, or you're just used to being so, I don't know. But it's something you feel like with his talents, he could turn that around if he really worked on it, but he needs to work on it. And you're less time shooting threes, more time shooting frees.
Yes, and you're right. Shaq was Mr. Brick from the free throw line, but even Shaq, and I know, Shaq's body type, he was kind of like more of a hulking figure, but yet we saw Shaq do amazing things on the basketball court, and I still believe that at that level, that your duty, if you were Shaq, or now if you're Giannis, your duty is in the off season.
Yeah.
Go out. There's got to be a guy, and I'm sure there are many of them. I mean, in San Antonio, you got a guy named Chip England, who is a Spurs assistant coach, and he's a player development coach. And famously, Chip England has worked, and he's probably worked with Jakob Poeltl, but he worked with Kawhi on free throws and on 3-point shooting, and he's a technique coach. And if you're making $27 million a year, whatever Giannis is making, is probably somewhere in that range. If you got to pay a guy over the summer $300,000 to spend the summer with you and increase your free throw shooting percentage from 52% to 72%, then I believe it's your obligation to the team and to the sport and to your teammates. If they lose a series again, and if they lose a series again early, Shannon, Mike Budenholzer is gone. I mean, this will be 3 years in a row. There are a lot of people who say, if Milwaukee doesn't even get to the finals, if they go to the Eastern Conference Finals and lose to the Brooklyn Nets or the Philadelphia 76ers, I'd have to check out where the bracket has them heading. I think they got to play Brooklyn next. So I think they're going to face Brooklyn next, and then maybe Philadelphia in the Eastern Conference Finals if it plays out that way. But because for 2 seasons in a row, the Milwaukee Bucks won 60 games and did not perform well in the playoffs, that the word is, if Mike Budenholzer doesn't get that job done, get them to the finals, he's history. So, there are people's livelihoods on the line, a direct impact of a bad free throw shooter who is an otherwise a transcendent superstar in Giannis.
One that is always crazy to me that coaches get fired because they get to the playoffs too often, but then don't go all the way. Meanwhile, you have coaches that are just trying to get to the playoffs, and if they do, it's like, oh yes, keep him around. He's doing fantastic. And then two, like we saw Tony Parker's documentary where he talked about how he changed his shooting style. Most recently, Lonzo Ball took a summer to work on his. He kind of had the elbow popped out whenever he shot and kind of did this wave motion. He's locked that in, and when you think, if you can change that, if you can change something that is natural instinct when you are in live action, you can change your free throw shooting style and get that locked in an off season.
You mentioned Tony Parker, Chris Gonzalez on Facebook Live reminding us Chip England. I mean, he's been with the Spurs forever, but he did. He was instrumental in helping Tony Parker become a better shooter, as you document. All right, we are approaching 7:20, so we will go ahead and do this right now. We do this twice in the morning at 6:20 and at 7:20, and we do it 12 times throughout the day on the 20s at whichever radio station you are listening to and through, whether it's AM 1300 The Zone or Ticket 760, even if you're doing it through the iHeartRadio app or over the airwaves or on Facebook Live, where we are right now as well. We're even on Twitch and we're on YouTube. We're going to give you a keyword right now. You take that keyword, you go to either website, Ticket 760 or AM 1300 The Zone. Pop in the keyword, and you are in the running for $1,000. Here comes the keyword.
Right now, here's your chance to win $1,000. Just enter this nationwide keyword on our website. Deposit. That's deposit. Enter it now.
Deposit is the keyword, as in you could be depositing $1,000. Good luck. Another NBA playoff note, Shannon, and apparently in between the Lakers beating the Golden State Warriors in the play-in game, and that was in LA, and before the Lakers went to Phoenix, apparently LeBron James was at a tequila event. Thank you. Apparently he was at a tequila event, and I guess it was one of his many businesses, maybe one of his tequilas, and he was there in crowds without a mask and apparently violating NBA protocols, and there was some discussion among NBA executives. Do we sanction LeBron James? Do we suspend him for game one of the series against the Phoenix Suns? Charles Barkley on TNT said the NBA doesn't have the cojones to suspend LeBron James. He used the English term for that part of the anatomy. I got to tell you, Shannon, if you've got standards, and the best thing you can do, I think, if you're a league, if you're a coach, if you're any organization, it's to demonstrate to everybody that the rules apply to everybody. If this was an NBA rule, guideline, policy, and LeBron James violated it, they should have suspended LeBron James for game number one of the NBA Finals. Is that just crazy, unrealistic of me to think? Does he play by another set of rules?
Clearly he does. And, the joke all year and every year is Adam Silver's always going to try and find a way to get the Lakers at least in the playoffs and give them a shot because their ratings hinge on LeBron James being there. Now, I'm looking at the photos now of him at this event, this tequila event, and it's not like it was some rando who happened to be there and was like, LeBron's here, I'm going to take pictures and sell them to TMZ and get them on the internet and, call him out. Like, these are professional photographers. He's in a picture cheersing with a bunch of people, two of which, Drake and Michael B. Jordan, who, of course, were sitting sidelined together at that Lakers-Warriors game just a few days before this event. You wonder if maybe the invite came after that because they are all buddy-buddy posing for pictures in this with LeBron. I don't know how you don't discipline him or at least say something. I mean, what is their excuse now? Well, that was like earlier in the season. Now it's later in the season. What? And again, like, after watching him roll around on the floor on top of it and just the whole, well, the play-in is stupid, fire the guy who did it, but then he goes on to win the play-in, so like, buddy, it worked in your favor. I'm getting so tired of him. So tired.
A lot of people are, but I just again, I think it was a shoulder this time. It was a collision with Chris Paul late in the game against Phoenix. And, he goes to and I'm watching him fall, and he didn't really even fall on his shoulder. Right. He kind of can, and with his other arm, he kind of secured himself. And once again, we went into the same thing we saw in the play-in game against the Warriors when he had the eye issue. This time it was the shoulder issue. It was LeBron James writhing on the ground for a long, long time, totally milking the situation, being a drama queen and being a diva. I always come back on, and it's the way I feel. I kind of like LeBron James. I think he's good for the game. Never gets in trouble with the law. By all accounts, he's a good father and a good husband, and he does a lot of good things to help young children get on with their education and grow into young adults, and he pays for scholarships. But the Drama Queen Diva Academy Award acting attempts are getting a little bit ridiculous.
Yeah, and apparently this was his tequila too that he, so it wasn't like he was invited to this party. Apparently this was his party.
Yeah.
So I don't know if maybe there's something we don't know that was behind the scenes that he spoke with the NBA prior to, and maybe that's why there's no suspension of, hey, I've got this tequila coming out. This is where we are with COVID. These are the people coming. They'll all be tested, this, that, and the other, whatever. They did great, but at this point you need to say something because people are dragging you, and I think rightfully so at this point, especially when you've seen throughout the season other players who have gone out and gotten suspensions for violating protocol or not been able to travel with their team and be a part of the teams during the games. It's just in a time when the NBA needs LeBron to be that guy that everyone tunes in to watch because he's great on the court. He's seemingly doing a lot off the court to you know, encourage people not to watch because they've just had enough. And
Yeah.
speaking of Chris Paul, do we know his status?
That's a great question because he was banged up in that game. Yeah.
And the first thing you think is this guy just can't catch a break during the playoffs.
That was my first thought. It's like,
He's
here we go
just
again. Yeah.
whoever, and it's so sad because, you think of Charles Barkley, like a guy who's great, never won a ring, but at least he got to the finals and got to play Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
Chris Paul just can't even get there because he gets hurt. I mean, you wonder if he would ever have a ring if he never just had those injuries. And my goodness, I just feel so bad for the guy.
That's a great question. We will check on the status of Chris Paul, but yeah, it becomes a recurring story, his injuries in the playoffs. We will talk more NBA playoffs. We will talk more PGA Championship. Andy Everett, our golf guru, going to join us just after 8:30, a little bit over an hour. And Andy, going to have to answer for himself. Shannon just destroyed him in the Fantasy Golf Challenge. So Shannon is our fantasy golf champion, outdistancing Andy, myself, and Tanner Carlson. Coming up, Shannon's Salty Shakedown, this day in sports history, sports birthdays, and more. If you want to join us on the phone lines, you want to talk NBA playoffs, LeBron, you want to talk NFL, you want to talk Major League Baseball, we got to talk a little college baseball as well. Texas Longhorns win the Big 12 championship over the weekend, and there was also Longhorn softball action last night. So we will get into all of that between now and 9 o'clock. Dave Ayler on the Suicidal Slam City Tour, making the show go. She is the salty one. I'm Chris. Thanks for hanging out with us. We're with you till 9 on the Chris Duel Show. Let me see if I can do something here. Chris Duel here to tell you about my experience at the Sinus and Snoring Special. 512-601-0303. Call them. You'll be glad you did. And snoring specialists. And snoring specialists. Call them. (601-0303) 512 snoringent.com and the phone number 512-601-0303 512-601-0303. Breathe better, sleep better, don't snore, live life the way you want to live it. The Sinus and Snoring Specialists. Call them. You'll be glad you did. Chris Duel here for the sinus and snoring specialists. Listen to me breathe. Anthony Del Toro, welcome in. That is me breathing fully, breathing easily. It wasn't that way before my balloon sinuplasty, which I had earlier this month. It is a non-surgical procedure, pain-free, in office. It helps eliminate recurring sinus infections, sinus headaches, reduces congestion and snoring. A 15-minute procedure. I am so much happier now. I am breathing so much. My balloon sinuplasty, which I had earlier this month. It is a non-surgical procedure, pain-free. Procedure, pain-free. Chris Duel here for the sinus and snoring specialists. Listen to me breathe. That is me breathing fully, breathing easily. It wasn't that way before my balloon sinuplasty, which I had earlier this month. It is a non-surgical procedure, pain-free, in office. It helps eliminate recurring sinus infections, sinus headaches, reduces congestion and snoring. A 15-minute procedure. I am so much happier now. I am breathing so much better. You don't have to live with sinus, allergy, snoring, or sleep issues. The sinus and snoring specialists are here to help. They're wonderful. Go look at the website, sinussnoringent.com, and the phone number 512-601-0303. 512-601-0303. Breathe better. Sleep better. Don't snore. Live life the way you want to live it. The sinus and snoring specialists. Call them. You'll be glad you did. DJ Khaled, Shannon Salty Sweeney by request. Very nice.
Get you amped. This song, the lead-in for the NBA playoffs this year.
Is that right?
Yes, we'll be hearing it quite a bit.
Woo!
I love it. I love that intro. And then, our boy from Texas on the chorus there, Post Malone, aka
Posty.
the Postman for the Dallas Cowboys, and
Yes.
Meg Thee Stallion out of Houston.
Very nice. It's all coming together.
Oh yeah.
I wonder if Posty is a Mavericks fan. He must be, right?
I think he is. I'm gonna say he is.
And before we get into, and we'll get back into it, but since you just posted it on Facebook Live, I want to just underscore it. You just wrote during the break, Shannon, on Facebook Live, how about the Texas women's tennis team winning the national championship this weekend? It was. You say it was a huge weekend all around for Texas athletics. A lot of noise being made by the Longhorns in sports this weekend.
Yeah, not only did the Texas women get that national championship for the first time, I believe, since the 90s, Texas baseball on a run rule game won the Big 12 championship. Texas softball moving on in the regional, as well as Texas women's golf moving on in their regional. And then I think the Texas men's tennis individual championship was supposed to be yesterday. I don't know that it happened thanks to the rain, so we'll have to keep an eye on what. But yeah, everybody's moving in the right direction. It's good when you're playing this late in the school year.
That is true. Absolutely.
Some people graduated over the weekend. Others were playing for championships.
Very nice. You mentioned the rain, and the rain certainly affected sports locally over the weekend, including NASCAR at COTA. What is the deal? It's May 24th. Isn't it supposed to be like summer-like weather? I can't believe all this crazy rain we've been dealing with.
Yeah, the whole April showers bring May flowers. That must never have pertained to Texas. I mean, I remember working in the Capitol when that Memorial Day storm hit. That was huge, and kind of my boss being like, "You're in the safest building in the city," as we're like 2 stories underneath the ground in our office. I was like, that doesn't make me feel better. How am I gonna get home? So I guess it's not too crazy that it rains a lot in May. I think we're just used to it all happening at once, rather than it. I mean, it feels like we're going on week 3 right now of just rain at least some point in the day and just kind of that doom and gloom look outside. It's not great. I'm over it.
So am I. I think it's supposed to clear up by the weekend, which of course is Memorial Day weekend, and hopefully we'll get a treat or at least a respite from the crazy weather. In a moment, Shannon's salty shakedown. But first, some sports birthdays, and this day in sports history. May 24th, 1918, Cleveland Indians' Stan Kovaleski sets a club record for the most innings pitched. He pitched 19 innings as the Indians beat the Yankees 3-2. That blows my mind. He pitched 19 innings and the Yankees scored 2 runs and he gets the win.
Do we know how many pitches he threw?
That's a great question. I'm going to have to Google that.
My goodness.
Yeah, 19. My God, that's 2 games. 9 times 2 is 18. 2 plus 1. Insane. Stan Kovaleski. This day in 1976, the greatest, Muhammad Ali, with a TKO of Richard Dunn in 5 rounds to maintain his heavyweight boxing title in Munich. This day in 1992, at the Indianapolis 500, Al Unser Jr. holds off Scott Goodyear. What a great name for a racer in the Indy. Scott Goodyear holds off Scott Goodyear to win by 0.043 seconds. It is the closest finish in Indy history, and Al Unser Jr. becomes the first ever second generation driver to win the race. Of course, his father, Al Unser Sr., winner of multiple races. And some people might have missed this in 2018, May 24th, 2018. President Donald Trump posthumously pardons boxer Jack Johnson for a racially oriented criminal conviction. He was convicted for transporting a white woman across state lines. Can you believe that? My God, what athletes and what African-American athletes have had to endure in this country. So good on Donald Trump for the posthumous pardon. coming decades too late and after his death, but at least coming from that gesture from the president in 2018. That's this day in sports history. How about some sports birthdays? Born on this day in 1962, Puerto Rican boxer Hector Camacho, who of course was known as Hector Macho Camacho, a tremendous nickname for a boxer. Macho Camacho, born on this day in 1962 in Bayamon, Puerto Rico. He was the WBC super featherweight champion 83 and 84, the WBC lightweight champion 85 through 87, and the WBO junior welterweight champion twice in 89 and 92. Hector Macho Camacho, born on this day in 1963, NBA and Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Famer Joe Dumars with the Detroit Pistons. He was an NBA champion and a six-time NBA All-Star. Joe Dumars, born in Shreveport, Louisiana. Born on this day in 1979, Tracy McGrady. He's a Hall of Famer as well, NBA All-Star from 2001 to 07. He was the NBA scoring champion in 03 and 04 with the Raptors, the Magic, and the Rockets. I think he even had a cup of coffee late in his career with the Spurs for like part of the end of a season. I think he sat on the Spurs bench. Tracy McGrady, born in Bartow, Florida, on this day in 1997. Finally, on this day in 1990, American race car driver Joey Logano, born in Middletown, Connecticut, May 24th, 1990. There you have it. Sports history, sports birthdays. And now, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, here it is for your Monday, your Salty Shakedown.
Well, since we were talking about the lovely Heat jerseys earlier and that they chose to wear yellow for the first game of their playoff series, let's start with some more jersey talk. This time we're going Tim Tebow. As we know, he signed with the Jacksonville Jaguars. He's currently sporting number 85 as a tight end. And you asked me Friday, Chris, if I would be buying a jersey. I said, I don't think so, especially since his number, not necessarily likely to change, but there is that possibility. And a lot of people think it will, should he make that final 53-man roster. You said if he made the roster that you would be interested in getting yourself a Tebow jersey.
Yes.
Well, apparently a lot of people are fine with going ahead and getting that 85 jersey because his jersey is the number one jersey. And it only took less than 24 hours to become the number one selling jersey on NFL's website. And not only is it the number one jersey, I mean, it's the top seller for men, women, even the jersey version of the jersey. Of course, that is a shirt with the name and number of the player of your choice on it. Tebow, welcome back to the NFL. It wouldn't be too surprising if they keep you around just to make some more dollars and cents. Thanks to your name and likeness and using that on a jersey, they're probably hoping that you change your number in a couple weeks, maybe for preseason, maybe if you do make the 53-man roster. To take all that in, his teammate, Trevor Lawrence, number one pick of the NFL draft, his jersey is number 16. Or excuse me, he wears number 16. His jersey is ranked number 12th right now. In his sales compared to Tebow, less than 24 hours after signing, becomes the number one jersey seller. Now these people that are buying the jerseys, do you think A, they don't care that he might change his number, that they just have that kind of cash flow and then they can just get another one and then they can wear that one around, and when people say, hey, that's not his number, you go, it was when he first came back to the league. This is his comeback number. Or do they just not know that he might change his number and then they get upset if he does? Because jerseys are not cheap, sir. No. Jerseys are not cheap, especially when you get the ones with the names on the back.
I'm amazed that Tebow Nation is still this fervent and in love with, I mean, he's been out of what, 7 years, 9 years, however long he was out of
8 years.
Okay, 8 years. Kind of disappeared a bit in the Mets organization in minor league baseball. I know he had the SEC gig, but you think about somebody who's 25 now, who was like 17 and maybe wasn't paying as much attention when Tebow first happened.
Yeah.
The fact,
Lawrence.
yes. So the fact that he just has such a a crazed fan base. I think it's kind of cool. I like it. And I think if you're a fan, even if he does change his number, you go, hey, yeah, but this was like you said, this was the comeback number. It's even on a certain level, it's even more street cred if you've got a rare jersey, but it was his, and you've got something to talk about saying what the number 85 is all about.
Yeah, and I love you mentioned the Tebow fan base, because when it was said he was going to sign, and then when he finally did, a lot of noise, a lot of hate thrown his way, but the fans just kept it quiet, and they went out and they bought the jerseys. Will be interesting to see now if he does in fact end up changing his number, and just how long they keep him on that team. Because think of all the other Tebow merch he could have, right? I mean, they probably are working on the bobbleheads as we speak. Because who doesn't want a Tebowing Tebow on a bobblehead? I'd take that. I'd keep it right here next to me.
Yes.
Play with it during every single show. All right, we're keeping it with the NFL quarterbacks today during this shakedown. And Patrick Mahomes, of course, he's been working in the offseason. He's coming off that foot injury. He's healing up. He's getting himself back in shape. And he sat down for an interview where he said that he would be totally okay with having, and would even like and hope that it comes in the future, chips in the football to kind of do what they're doing in soccer with VAR, right? Where technology can tell you if that ball passed the goal line. So here, if the ball did in fact become a touchdown. Now, there's already chips in the ball, right, for the data grabbing for NFL's next gen, yardage and all those good things, spin, speed, all that good stuff that you can get from the ball and that chip. But it would be interesting to see if they did something like this, similar to VAR. Now, that doesn't then tell you where the knee is if they were down. It just says, yes, the ball broke the plane. So there's still some human element that would be involved. He said he understands that human error is just part of the game of football when it comes to making decisions, but that having a chip in there might speed up the game a little bit, because as we know, every touchdown is reviewable. And they do review it, and sometimes they review it way too long, especially for, it always seems the ones that are completely obvious. Yes, that is a touchdown for whatever reason. They're like talking to New York at that point. Like, well, we may have something. We may have something. And then it ends up being touchdown. We were like, we knew that the entire time. Your thoughts on possibly chipping the football for this new reason?
Well, I think about where's the chip going to be, because sometimes like the front cone of the football might break the plane, but what if the chip is where the laces are? So there's that. So I mean, sometimes as you know, it is that close as far as part of the football breaking the plane. And then I wonder, as you make a good point, Shannon, what if the knee is down? Can we put biodegradable chips in players' knees? It's like, everybody get a chip in your knee in case your knee goes down, so that we can see what hit first, the chip in the football breaking the plane or your knee hitting the ground. Probably not practical, probably ridiculous, but it is a little bit ridiculous. But I love tech. I love that we would maybe be able to track the football and get more statistics on the velocity of a pass and things like that. So it's why the heck not? And I like so many things. I think the NFL is open to experimentation. They could try. I mean, it's not going to hurt anybody to put a chip in a football and see what kind of data they can uncover with it. So I think they ought to go ahead and give it a shot, or at least try it in preseason and see how it works.
Yeah, I don't think it's the worst idea in the world to speed up the game from reviews. But people and purists, they already have the argument with baseball of those that look too much into the analytics rather than just going with feel, and basketball, same thing. So it's certainly a balancing act, especially as technology does progress. So you get these options of adding a chip here or there to see if you can change some things that maybe people aren't the biggest fans of. But we shall see. It was interesting to note, especially coming from a quarterback like Pat Mahomes, who often runs and maybe finds himself in those situations more than once within a season. All right, moving on to our final quarterback today, Ryan Fitzpatrick, the journeyman himself, Mr. Fitzmagic, who now leads the Washington football team. Chris, he could be number one in this category after this season. Before I say what it is, do you have a guess? What record he could break?
Longest beard of a starting quarterback, breaking the record of Dan Fouts, who had quite the formidable beard back in the day.
That might actually be one of them. However, that is not the one I'm thinking. Let me remind you: Drew Brees, Brett Favre, Peyton Manning, and could soon be Tom Brady if he does beat the Patriots, will be quarterbacks who beat all 32 teams in the NFL.
Whoa.
Mr. Fitzpatrick has so far lost to 28 teams in the NFL as a starting quarterback with the Washington Redskins. Or excuse me, Washington football team. My bad. He will play 3 of the 4 teams he has not yet lost to this year, including the Packers, the Saints, and the Bucks.
Oh.
So he could lead the way with losing to 31 different NFL teams. The only other team he has not lost to is the Lions. They are not on the Washington football team schedule. If all craziness truly does happen and they somehow end up both in the playoffs and then playing each other, then, there's always a chance for that. But for the ultimate journeyman, I mean, I can't believe I kind of can't believe he hasn't done it already, because he is known for taking L's and typically he really used to not start the season, right? He always just kind of came in when the team was bad or somebody got hurt, and then, you're quarterbacking an already bad team, so you kind of expect it. But hey, maybe that's something he'll hang his hat on and find some joy in. Hey,
well, so
I'm in the record books.
I like it, and maybe he needs to stay in the league another year or two beyond this year, so that he can play and lose to the Detroit Lions. But it's so funny, Shannon, because you say he's known for taking losses. That's part of his rep. But at the same time, he's also known for being a reliable, backup journeyman quarterback. I've always kind of liked him. There's something about him. He, and maybe the beard and the look, and he went to an Ivy League school. He's very different on many levels as an NFL quarterback. But I kind of like the fact that he's been able to make a career in such an unorthodox way, in such an unlikely way.
Now, of these 3 teams that he'll be facing this year, the Packers, who may or may not have Aaron Rodgers, the Saints, who we still are not entirely sure who their quarterback is going to be, and the Bucks, who of course will have Tom Brady and have come off that championship year. What do you think? How does he go these 3 games?
It's a great, Bucks automatically, I assume, because they are at full strength and returning everybody. So I think the Bucks beat Washington. But you make a great point. Green Bay, and what's weird about Green Bay, there's like 5 or 6 already nationally televised Packers games. If Aaron Rodgers does not play for Green Bay, I hope you like Jordan Love, America, because you're going to see a lot of him. And again, we don't know, Jameis Winston or Taysom Hill, who's going to be the quarterback of the Saints. So I think definitely the Bucks beat them. And then, as you document, questionable as to whether a lot more people now saying, because Aaron Rodgers people are saying this can be resolved, and they think that's coming from Aaron Rodgers. And a lot of people say Aaron Rodgers' best chance to win in the playoffs and maybe go back to a Super Bowl would be with Green Bay, certainly more than if he were dealt to Denver or somewhere else. So I would say the least likely, maybe New Orleans with their questions at quarterback.
Okay, so maybe he won't get to 31, but definitely
he probably
29,
will.
Probably 30.
He'll probably lose to all of those teams. And I hope he does, because it's Washington. I mean, I like Fitzpatrick, but you're Washington, so I have to not like you.
Sorry about it, buddy. There concludes today's quarterback NFL version, Salty Shakedown.
Outstanding Salty Shakedown, as always.
Thank you, sir.
Enjoyed it.
I work hardish on them.
You do. You work hardish, and your hardishness pays off. Coming up in the 8:00 hour, we will revisit Deshaun Watson. Any more videos from him? We'll talk a little NFL football, as we should. Of course, we'll dive back into the PGA Championship. My new favorite old guy standing next. I got to come up with a Mount Rushmore of old athletes who are doing great things. Add Phil Mickelson next to Tom Brady. Got to figure out who the other 2 are. Mickelson winning the PGA Championship. Andy Everett, our golf guru, going to get into that with us as well. With you till 9. Thanks for hanging out with us on the Chris Duel Show. Beth Settle, good morning. All right, I think I'm on a coffee quest. See, John Williams, you wanted me to check my Messenger. Good morning from the UTSW Medical Center, cardiologist in Dallas. John, are you having cardiology tests? I hope it goes well for you, if that's the case. All right. Wow, we got somebody who ordered a Tim Tebow jersey. Oh, no, it wasn't. Okay, I see what's happening. It was a joke on Twitter. All right, coffee time. Okay, now, there's my coffee. There's my mask. Sorry, LeBron. Hello, Dean Stone. Welcome in.
This Duel show. You know, today, try to run, try to hide, wake up.
Welcome in on a rainy Monday. Hopefully this rain clears out in Austin and San Antonio, throughout South and Central Texas. Chris Duel Show, along with Shannon Salty Sweeney, Dave Ayler, your soundscape stylist. Dave calls it a metal Monday. Dave Ayler playing a lot of metal for you. I think there may be some more metal music in your future here in the 8 o'clock hour. A little bit later, just after 8:30, our friendly neighborhood golf guru, Andy Everett, will join us. Talk a little bit. Yeah, he's also Birds Up. Thank you. He's the voice of UTSA athletics in addition to being golf guru. But Shannon, I'm wondering if we need to just say that you are now the golf guru because you won the fantasy golf challenge. And, Andy's not necessarily king of the hill when it comes to picking golfers to perform well in major PGA events, apparently.
Listen, I'm not going to tell you no. That's just not the kind of girl I am. But if you want to say it, that's okay. We're only 2 majors into the season, though. So I'm not going to get too cocky about it yet.
True. But, yeah, we might just have to say golf guru Shannon Sweeney along with golf enthusiast Andy Everett.
Yeah, I wonder if it makes it worse for him that I don't know how to play golf, or I've never really played golf other than Top Golf.
But I mean, you pay close attention, and you certainly. I mean, nobody picked Phil Mickelson, who wound up winning the thing.
Yeah.
Which was absolutely amazing.
I don't think people pick him after his, what's it called? Is it Ms. and Main? The shirts that he wears, the long sleeved, button up, checkered shirts, and then he's in the video where he's just dancing. He's doing old guy dancing.
I did not see him old guy dancing.
People love it, and the gifs of it were flying all over the weekend because he was hitting shots. But I can't believe he plays in shirts like that at times. I know he was rocking the short sleeve for this tournament, which is great. Because it's South Carolina, I know it gets super humid.
Yeah.
But that's a weird partnership in my eyes. Did you see they're in South Carolina on the 14th hole? I believe it was Friday. Just a giant alligator. He doesn't care if the PGA's there.
Yeah.
His home, just walking right along. And I know that happens from time to time, but I would just call it right then and there. Like whatever. Just we're done. I'm out of here.
Yeah.
He probably has friends.
Exactly. And alligators can kill people and hurt you. Yeah. So that it is amazing. It's a completely different world, certainly in Florida and in this case, South Carolina. Yeah, I said there was some alligator last week in a fast food parking lot chasing patrons like in a Wendy's or something. So
oh my god, no.
Yeah. The gators are coming back. They want their habitat back. Apparently.
Are they seasonal like that? Like, is this time of year where they're like, I'm gonna roam around?
It's a great question. I don't know. I don't know my alligator lore. I'm sure somebody from Florida or the Southeast could give us that.
Yeah, I'm going to Florida in September, and so I'm just hoping I don't run into any alligators.
So you're going to Florida in September. Where are you going to Disney World? What's the
Disney World?
So that is where you're going.
And I'm staying at the hotel known for alligators who eat small people.
Have people been
that kid in 2016, the Grand Floridian?
Yeah,
that one.
So what happened to the kid? I vaguely remember that story.
He was inside of an alligator.
Oh,
died.
Ooh.
But I've been reading, especially during the pandemic, with less people around, they've removed hundreds of alligators from their park areas.
And I guess if you're the Grand Floridian Hotel, it's probably a good economic choice to try to remove alligators.
Yeah. I mean, they've always been like, you don't swim in the little ponds or whatever that they have there that you can boat across to get to parks, but that's terrifying to like sit there watching the PGA, and they clearly have no fear. It's not like they live in the water. They come up out and go wherever they please.
Mm-hmm.
So a little, link chain is going to stop them.
Yeah.
Right under that.
My goodness.
I'll be at the pool.
Woo!
Take a drive down to the Everglades. They let you hold them there.
Huh?
They let you hold. There's a picture on my Facebook. I'm holding about a 4-foot alligator.
Why in God's name would you want to hold an alligator? What could possibly go wrong?
Not?
Because it could kill you. Because it could freak out and chop your arm off.
Well, it's just one of the dangers of being brave, I guess.
So you had a desire.
I'd rather be smart and have my Limbs.
It didn't
Yeah.
bite me. All my limbs are still attached.
But why did you even want to do that? It's like, oh, hey, why don't I go stick my head in the mouth of a lion just to get the photo for Instagram?
Well, there's also pictures of me on my Facebook holding Madagascar hissing cockroaches.
What?
Yeah.
No.
There were no, because I had a fear of bugs. I used to be afraid of them like crazy. I wouldn't go near them. And one of my friends has a bunch of them as pets. And
Why are you friends with this?
yeah, well, he's weird. But so I go to get over my fear. I go when I'm over there next time I'm at your house. I go just put some roaches in my hand because I want to get over that fear. And so that's what I did. And now I don't go around picking up cockroaches, but they don't bother me anymore.
Aren't they notoriously like filthy and carrying diseases?
Those are the hood cockroaches. These were Madagascar hissing cockroaches. You put your hand in there, they all start hissing at you. And there's a picture of me like licking one too.
Licking one, dude.
No,
This is getting worse by the minute.
It only looks like I'm licking it. I actually didn't lick it.
How did your friend acquire the Madagascar hissing cockroaches?
I don't know where he got them from, but he's a school teacher, and that's his classroom pet.
Okay.
No.
He had like
I would ask to be changed to a different teacher. No, sir.
He has a tank that has like about 30 of them in there.
Whatever happened to gerbil?
Exactly.
Where the kid can take it home on the weekend.
He had a some kind of monitor lizard in a iguana or something too, but I think he gave those away. And he had a ferret.
Those
He gave that away. Yeah, they do stink. And he gave it away because the thing stunk too much.
I never knew ferrets stank. That's I'm learning things about the animal kingdom on this show.
They have like a scent gland where if you descent them, then then it goes. It's not too bad, but his still had the scent gland in it. It's like a skunk, but when it gets scared,
Ooh.
it's something that stinks.
I have a dog. Like a normal person.
Alligator.
All right. So Dave did tell me we've got 2 days that we are celebrating today, Shannon. Today is Brothers Day, National Brothers Day.
Don't got no.
Yeah. So if you got a brother, you celebrate. What do you? I guess you give your brother a call, or you set up a lunch with your brother, or you go get some barbecue. So happy Brothers Day to everybody.
Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, ooh, perfect. Aaron,
Looking at you.
exactly. And you're not looking at your brother, Aaron Rodgers. So, and today is National Escargot Day. The tasty appetizer. You probably, I would imagine Dave Ayler enjoys escargot, probably.
I've never had it.
Don't bother.
It doesn't look it looks disgusting.
I've never had it either.
I was in Paris and I was like, I'll just do it. I'm in Paris.
Ooh.
No.
Yeah.
No.
I'll try just about anything once, and I have eaten alligator too.
See, look at you. So you hug the alligator
Yes.
and you eat his brother. That's just.
It was a lot of fun eating them because they're actually pretty good. But it was. You're afraid. You're afraid to hold an alligator. It was kind of like a steak, and it tasted like steak basically, except the meat was white.
You know they eat people, right? So I'm just saying.
Yeah. The one I held was too small to eat me.
Okay, so it was a tiny alligator,
Like 3 or 4 feet.
Okay.
So
So
they had bigger ones in there that were man eaters.
and this was in the Florida Everglades. And so it's like an area you go to just so that you can.
Yeah, it was an alligator farm, and they take you out into the Everglades on an airboat and see the wild ones out in the pen.
Very nice.
Because then they have a pen where the guy's in there, and he's like sticking his hand in the thing's mouth and all that. They don't let you do that.
Florida is a whole different kind of country. Enjoy your vacation in September in Florida, Shannon.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to it.
Go to the Everglades, hold an alligator.
Yeah, you can put that on the list. Speaking of vacation, some NBA teams may be headed to vacation sooner than they thought. We got a couple of games tonight in the NBA. Game number 2. Let's see, both of these games will be on TNT tonight. So the good news is the panel, the TNT panel, Ernie Johnson, Kenny the Jet Smith, Shaq. Who am I leaving out? Charles Barkley. How can I leave out Charles Barkley? What is wrong with me? But the Bucks, their game number 2, Bucks won game number 1 in a tight one with the Heat. Maybe the Heat will bust out the beautiful, ridiculous yellow uniforms again tonight. Bucks going for the 2-0 lead. That's the early game. Tip off just after 6:30 from Milwaukee on TNT. That's from the Fiserv Forum. Your late game. And watch out, Denver Nuggets. Nuggets lost the first game at Denver. Portland leads 1-0. So Portland looking to take a 2-0 lead on the road against the Denver Nuggets. And the Nuggets are another one of these teams, Shannon. It's so weird. You know, you've got Utah that none of us really got that concerned about, even though they had the best record in the NBA, and they lost their opener home against the Memphis Grizzlies. And same thing for the Nuggets. Nuggets lose to the Portland Trailblazers in game 1, and they risk tonight going down 0-2 to the Portland Trailblazers. So we'll see what happens there.
It's Dame Dollar time. That's when he comes to shine.
Yeah.
And Carmelo Anthony. I mean, he's gotten lost in the shuffle, but how great would it be to see him make a deep run in the playoffs?
And
he's got the most Olympic medals.
Yeah.
No rings.
He is a guy who seemed, just a couple of years ago when he was with the Knicks to kind of be left for dead. And it sure seemed like his career was done. And I remember at one point he was out there, and I even heard some Spurs fans saying, do you think the Spurs should go after Carmelo Anthony? And I was thinking, hell no. You don't want Carmelo, but he's been very effective for the Nuggets. So that's a 3 versus 6. So, I mean, it's interesting. You look at the top 3 teams in the Western Conference record-wise, and it was the Jazz with the best record in the NBA, 52-20. They lose. Now, Suns beat the Lakers, so they're looking good at least for the moment. And then you had the 3 seed, the Nuggets, and they've lost. And the 4 seed, the Clippers lose to your Dallas Mavericks. 3 of the top 4 seeds in the Western Conference lose, as do the Lakers. And a lot of people thought, even though they're the 7 seed, that they a lot of people still think maybe they're the team to beat. But Phoenix is having something to say about that. And as you mentioned earlier, Shannon, the big thing to keep an eye on in that Lakers-Phoenix series is the health of Chris Paul, who took a spill, injured his shoulder. It affected his dribbling. He was turning the ball over. He wasn't shooting as well, although he did still make a couple of key shots for the Suns. But that recurring theme of Chris Paul getting injured in the playoffs reared its ugly head in game 1 in Phoenix.
Well, and to see that they still prevailed despite that injury to him is great to see.
Yeah.
Because as we saw with other teams, he was out. Then everyone just kind of wrote off whatever team he was playing for at that point. Even when he was with the Rockets and, he got injured, they were like, well, Harden, we all know Harden can't do it himself. That's why we brought him in to begin with. So we're screwed. And speaking of Harden, they played the Celtics Saturday night and they ended up winning that one at home. But at first, I think Celtics got off to a really hot start. It was like 13-4.
Yeah.
And it was one of the very few times we've seen all season the big 3 all playing together, and it took them a while to actually get things going. Now, once they did, they were fine. Wasn't much of a game down the stretch, so they did find their way. But that was pretty interesting to watch them struggle a little bit to get it all together. There was an interesting flagrant call on Kevin Durant down at the end of the game that had it been closer, probably would have been more discussed, but he jumped up to block a 3-point shot. And when he landed, he was kind of falling forward because he had run up to block the shot, and his foot landed first, and it landed underneath I forget the shooter, but the Celtic player who was shooting, and then that Celtic player landed on his foot and fell, and they called a flagrant on KD for that one. And he couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. And like I said, had that actually been a close game at that point, for the timing of which that game, I think there's less than 2 minutes left, that would have been something. The refs already off to a rough start in the NBA postseason. But luckily it didn't matter in the long run and the grand scheme of things. But that's super interesting because, flagrant, that's one.
Yeah. Good point. And that kind of is the throwback to the old Zaza Pachulia call back in when I think that was probably the last time that Kawhi played meaningfully for the San Antonio Spurs, when Zaza Pachulia got underneath him and caused that ankle injury for Kawhi in a game that the Spurs were up huge in game 1 on the road in the Western Conference Finals at Golden State. And it was kind of that moment that changed the fortunes for Kawhi. The next year is when he wigged out, and the Spurs' fortunes never the same after that moment. But I'm looking at some of the numbers, Shannon, from that Brooklyn win over the Celtics in game one, 104-93. And their big three really brought it. Kevin Durant, 32 points, Kyrie Irving, 29, James Harden, 21. And Durant had 12 rebounds to go with his 32 points. And let's see, rebound-wise, Kyrie Irving, 29 and 6. And Harden, 21 points, 9 rebounds, 8 assists. The James Harden, when he went to the Nets from the Houston Rockets, so many people said, and I believed, that it wasn't going to work, that Harden, kind of a ball hog, could not be a distributor, could not be a great teammate, among others. And he has kind of changed his game in a big enough way to allow all of these guys to get their touches and get their minutes and get their points. So it remains to be seen if the Brooklyn Nets can sustain this. Apparently, they on that side of the bracket, it would look like they're on a collision course in the very next round of the playoffs with the Milwaukee Bucks, which would be interesting. And then, of course, you got the Philadelphia 76ers waiting, in all probability, barring an upset, awaiting the winner of that one in the Eastern Conference Finals. So going to be interesting to see how that all plays out. Now, Shannon, with going into this season, everybody thought in the West it's going to be either the Clippers or the Lakers. It's either LeBron James and Anthony Davis or Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. And interestingly, both of those LA teams get punked in their very first game, and they're both down 0-1 after just one game in their first round.
Oops. Can't say I hate it.
Yeah.
Can't say I hate it. Now, does the NBA probably secretly hate it? Yeah.
Oh, God,
but
yes.
At the same time, when people think, oh, this will be a 4-game sweep, this will go 5 games, they may get to take it to 7. So who knows? This could be in favor of the NBA.
Well, and yes, true. And both of those games now, both of those series now, unless and the weird thing about Phoenix, and I watched that game yesterday and I kept waiting for the LA comeback. It was like 7 minutes left. It's a 10-point game. All right, well, we're going to in 4, and then 4 minutes left. It's an 8-point game. And Phoenix just kept extending that lead into the final 2 minutes when they were up by like 12 or 14. And then finally, Frank Vogel puts in the scrubs with about 90 seconds to play, and you realized it was over. But both of those, unless, and again, we go back to the Chris Paul injury in the Phoenix series, which could be huge. You would kind of guess that both the Clippers and the Lakers are going to come back in those series, but especially in the case of Dallas versus the Clippers, if Dallas can find a way to get game number 2 in LA, to make the Clippers have to win 4 out of 5 games, 3 of those would be in Dallas. Dallas is going to have more fans, and therefore I got to believe more of a home court advantage than the Clippers will, with less fans allowed in California at Staples Center. God, it would be just so nice to see the Clippers get bounced very, very early. And if that happens, Kawhi's already expressing, his distaste for the Clippers. God knows where he might land. I heard he might even sample the Miami Heat in the offseason. Who knows?
Does he look good in yellow?
We're about to find out.
The only person I'd feel bad for if the Clippers got bounced would be Doc Rivers, because he got bounced following last season after their playoff exit that everyone felt was way too early. And he's Doc Rivers, right? So he landed on his feet just fine. But I'd certainly rather be in LA than where
but wouldn't Doc Rivers kind of like it if
I'm
Clippers
sure,
got bounced without him?
I'm sure it'd be pretty bittersweet, but it's like you think the real problem at this point that we're all seeing is PG and Kawhi doing whatever it is that they're doing internally, because it's not helping them at this point.
Yeah, and Kawhi, obviously I pay close attention to him. Very ineffective down the stretch, just missing some wide open shots and just unable to take over the game like we've seen him do, in his heyday with the Spurs, certainly when he was with the Toronto Raptors and they won that title. So can't say I'm shedding a lot of tears for Kawhi.
Although how great would it be if the Clippers somehow made it to the finals and then they played the 76ers, who somehow also made it to the finals versus the team that fired him for not being able to get there.
Doc Rivers revenge. Yep, that would be cool. All right. Coming up, let's talk a little PGA Championship. How big was 50-year-old Phil Mickelson's win, the oldest man to win a PGA major? Our former golf guru, now, of course, the title is Shannon's, Andy Everett, now golf enthusiast Andy Everett, going to join us next. We'll talk some golf and more with Andy. What's next? And will Andy agree that Tiger Woods has to get a little bit of juice seeing Phil Mickelson do this well as Tiger continues to work toward his rehab and perhaps a comeback on the PGA Tour? We'll talk everything PGA and more with Andy Everett coming up. She is Shannon Salty Sweeney. He is Dave Ayler, your alligator massaging, hugging, kissing, Madagascar hissing, roach licking soundscape stylist. We're with you till 9. Thanks for hanging out. It's the Chris Duel Show.
Alligator.
Yeah. So now, are you going to play that song? I got to remember what song that was.
It's Mother by Danzig.
Oh, cool.
Cue it up.
Is it called Mother, just singular?
Mother, yeah.
Mother by Danzig. Okay. Jason, if you're there, he's going to play the song you requested. And I'll try to pull up. Santos Paniagua, welcome in. Thank you, sir.
So if you look at my Facebook page, you see me hold an alligator with a lot more hair than I have now.
Okay, I'll check that out.
Can't look at a bug.
You're a madman. Okay, I'm on your page, but I don't see it.
Go to photos.
Okay.
Then
Okay.
it's probably towards the bottom. Go to photos, then albums, then it should be towards the bottom.
Albums. Yeah, I see the alligator.
The one licking the bug is go into profile pictures, and it should be probably about halfway down.
Yep. Pretty sick.
Do what I can to be entertaining.
All right.
Tell your children not to walk my way. Tell your children not to work. You what to say.
By request, Mother by Danzig. Jason Paniagua, who joins us frequently on Facebook Live. Great listener, great viewer. In fact, he was at NASCAR at COTA, won tickets here. Was at the big event yesterday in Austin. He sends that out to his mom, Diane Murrell. Either it's Murrell or Murrell, or so Jason, I'm probably mispronouncing your mom's last name, but it's Diane. It's Jason's mom. Wishing her a happy birthday. Very, very cool. Something else that was very, very cool, of course, the PGA Championship. Phil Mickelson becomes the oldest golfer to win a major on the PGA Tour at 50. Did Andy Everett see this coming? Let's find out. He is our golf guru, even though Shannon Salty Sweeney won the Fantasy Golf Challenge over the weekend. Andy, how you doing this morning?
I'm good, and no, nobody saw this coming, not even Phil, I don't think. Well, even though Phil says he thought he could do it, but I'm sure there are times where it was out of his mind as well.
So one of the first things that occurs to me is Tiger. I mean, to me, I know Tiger is probably going to do everything he can to come back and rehab, but you know, he has so much history with Phil. For him to see Phil do this at 50 and Tiger's 45, do you think this maybe gives Tiger a little extra juice?
Oh, I think so, absolutely. I don't know that Tiger needed it, but I think he just got some. I think it does a lot for everybody that age, whether you're a professional golfer or just an average person on the street, that life doesn't end at 50 years old. But there are sacrifices that you're going to have to make in order for you to have be successful at whatever you do. You're not going to be as good at some of the things that you were as good at and get by with things when you're 35 or 30 or when Phil was his prime. And so I think that's the lesson learned. How bad do you want it, and what are you willing to give up in order to get it? And one of the things that they asked Phil in the press stuff last night, because I did watch all the post-game stuff, they said, well, what did you have to give up? What was the sacrifice? He said, food. I can't eat what I want. I can't eat as much of it, and I have to be very careful because I can't be in this condition if I eat like I did 15 years ago. And I said the good part of that is that I feel a lot better. But yeah, there's there's lots of foods that I used to eat a lot of that I don't eat anymore, and I miss that. But this is the result.
Sticking with Tiger, you did take to Twitter to say truly inspirational to see Phil Mickelson do it again at 50 years of age. Congrats. Now, let's do like most people do these days, right? We overreact to a single thing. We read too much into it. If I were an overreactor, which sometimes I can be, truly inspirational. To me, that's Tiger watching bedside, saying, I can do it too. Inspirational. I mean, he's an inspiration to me just so I can get ready and back into it and go out there and beat him the next time around. What about you?
Oh, absolutely. And I put this on Facebook last night. I think it's motivation for Tiger. I think there's a bunch of players on PGA Tour champions that are going, man, I'm glad he's going to be on the regular tour for a couple more years. We don't have to compete against him. I think that there is others that will say, what is Phil's diet? Can I copy it, whether you're a golfer or not? And the thing that I was the most impressed with is on number 16 yesterday, Brooks Koepka gets up there and hits first and bombs one 360 down the middle of the fairway, and Phil drove it past him. And to me, that makes anybody that's up in age in anything say, wow, maybe life isn't over with, but there are some things I'm going to have to do if I'm going to be able to get them done. And there's nobody that will work harder or get more motivated than Tiger will. Now, one of Tiger's biggest, or at least the rumor was, Tiger's never said it, but his friends have said it, that the one thing that he always had issue with Phil is that Phil didn't work that hard when he was younger, at least not as hard as Tiger did. He said he was never in the gym. He was always eating junk food. He was always driving through the line at Dunkin' Donuts and stuffing himself with sugar, and all those things that he did or did not do, Tiger was doing, and I think that was one of the reasons why Tiger had the edge. That he was in better condition and probably the best conditioned golfer of all time. And when Phil developed the psoriatic arthritis, part of what arthritis does is cause your body to be inflamed. One of the things that causes inflammation is excess junk food and sugar. And so he had to cut all that out in order to just be able to feel good. And now it's moving forward into manifesting into being another major winner.
He is Andy Everett, host of the golf show on Ticket 760 Saturday mornings. He's also the voice of UTSA Athletics. And Andy, we talk about Phil Mickelson and what this might do to further inspire Tiger Woods. I think about Tom Brady and what he's able to do at quarterback in the NFL. And I begin to believe that people like Aaron Rodgers, maybe, and some older quarterbacks look at maybe extending their career further than they thought they would because they see it can be done. Do you think this will have a ripple effect across golf? 40-something golfers who, might have looked at their career a little bit different, maybe beginning to pay more attention to nutrition and trying to do what Phil Mickelson did at 50.
Well, I think it all depends on what motivates you and what you're trying to get done. And for Phil, I think it's about adding to his legacy. And for Tiger, it's about adding his legacy. I mean, these guys are worth between $500 million and $1.5 billion for these high-end professional athletes. I read somewhere where Phil's net worth is close to $600 million, and Tiger's is either at or close to $1 billion. And Tom Brady's probably going to be there, and LeBron's going to be there, and all of those players. The biggest difference between the NFL and the NBA and golf, especially the NFL, is that there's nobody hitting you in golf. You're not getting sacked. You're not having to run away from somebody. But you still have to be able to make those muscles work in the sequence that they are, and that requires you to be healthy. And if you're not going to follow some rather strict regimens when it comes to your eating and drinking habits, then you're not going to be able to perform as you did younger, and certainly not be able to beat younger guys or to stay on the field or the court or whatever it is that you like to do. I think it goes back to the old thing. Golf is a bunch of life lessons, and one of the subtle ones is this is the way that you can perform if you choose to do so, but it does take sacrifice.
I'm looking at Phil's diet now. A lot of fasting and a very weird drink that he apparently does. I don't know if I could do it for that long, but it certainly it certainly works for him. Another guy whose physique is often talked about on the tour is Mr. Brooks Koepka. Of course, he was golfing with Phil yesterday, and he mentioned his frustration about all of the fans that were then walking with them along the way, saying he got dinged in his bad knee a few times. He wasn't happy about that. He said it probably would have been cooler if I wasn't already injured, but that he just didn't really appreciate it. Was there a chance that a guy like Louis or Brooks had to beat Phil yesterday, or was it pretty much set in stone at that point?
I think the favorite, even the betting favorite yesterday going into the tournament was Koepka. And I think on the first hole when he made birdie and Phil made bogey, all of a sudden people are saying, okay, it's over. Phil's going to struggle. Phil's going to have a bad day, and this is going to be a walk in the park for Koepka. Louis Oosthuizen doesn't putt very well, and that's always been Louis' downfall when it comes to his successes on the PGA Tour. He's only won one PGA Tour event, which is an international event, the British Open, back in 2010 at St. Andrews, and those greens are rather benign except for when the wind blows. And so I think that's one of the things that's always kept him from winning more. He's a really good ball striker and a really good player. Kevin Streelman makes a little bit of a run. And then there was a couple others that got up there and then fell back. But no, I think that the overwhelming favorite, even before the day started, was Brooks Koepka. The knee thing wasn't an issue until the fans rushed the 18th green, and there was absolutely zero crowd control from whoever was in charge of security on that last hole. Not only were players and caddies and the people that have to be inside the ropes, like the reporters and photographers, not only were they in that situation, but last I checked, we're still kind of coming out of COVID, and I'm sure there was a lot of people that were a little skeptical about them being that close to one another. But those were the issues, and I don't think anybody intentionally took a shot at Brooks Koepka's knee, and if they did, they should be banned from ever watching a sporting event for the rest of their lives. And we'll never know if we can prove that or not. But no, I think you see that in past years at the Open Championship over in Scotland and Ireland and Great Britain and England. But that's the first time in a long time I've seen that happen on American golf events. But there's not a lot of room there, so however many fans were in attendance, they all had to end up somewhere to get a piece of what they were looking at.
Now, your favorite going into this tournament, Andy, was Rory McIlroy. He finished tied for 49th at 5 over. Finished even on the final day, so not a bad score considering how tough that course seemed. But what's your assessment of his play this past weekend?
It goes back to the same thing I've always said about Rory, in that his short game is not very good compared to the rest of the PGA Tour, or it's very streaky. And when other players on the PGA Tour are hitting 6, 7, 8 irons closer than he can hit a wedge, he's not going to win. By PGA Tour standards, he's not a great putter. And so he has to have really good ball striking. So I think that's probably one of the reasons why he hasn't won at the Masters, is because you have to be able to putt on what many consider the fastest and most trickiest greens that you'll ever play. I look at now the other thing too is that he's trying to hit more than just his normal draw. He's trying to find other shots. And to me, that's not what he needs to be working on. He needs to be on the range with a sand wedge in his hand from 85 to 110 yards and hit 10,000 golf balls well. And when he does hit that club well, most pros can make a 4-footer, and he knocks it into 4 feet, he's going to be winning. When he won at Quail Hollow in Charlotte 2 weeks ago, other than the drive on the good too. So I don't think there's anything to worry about yet, but his golf swing is still in transition from the lessons and the changes he made in the winter into the spring, and he'll be a factor, I would imagine, in Torrey Pines next month at the U.S. Open.
So, Andy, in February, Tom Brady wins a Super Bowl at the age of 43. In May, yesterday, Phil Mickelson wins the PGA Championship at the age of 50. Which is more remarkable?
Well, Tom Brady has help. I mean, I think the thing that Tom Brady brings to his team is two things. Number one, belief that you can win, and number two, accountability. To me, if Tom Brady doesn't play for Tampa Bay, they don't even make the playoffs. And to me, that's his value. As he walks in that room, and he's the coach of that team as much as Bruce Arians is. Bruce Arians is calling plays and coordinating things. But the leader of that team is Tom Brady, and all those players in the NFL are good enough to win. They just needed somebody to show them how. And if you drop a pass in practice, he's going to be in your face saying that's not acceptable. It may have been acceptable with the old quarterback, but if you want me to go over there and tell Bruce Arians he's not playing, then you better catch the next one I throw to. I think from a golf standpoint, it's totally individual. If you have no help, your caddy can give you a pep talk, as Tim Mickelson did a couple of times yesterday when Phil got off to a slow start. But for the most part, you have to execute the shots in front of millions of people watching on TV and in the stands. And there's no lonelier feeling in the world than knowing you have to execute something and having zero help. If Tom Brady throws a bad pass, it's going to get picked off and he's going to get blamed. But if it's because the left tackle didn't cover the end, or the running back didn't pick up the blitz, or the wide receiver ran the wrong route, it's not always on him. When Phil hits the ball in the water, it's 100% on him. So I think the edge goes to Phil in that category.
Made a great case for it. Andy Everett, host of the golf show on Ticket 760 in San Antonio, 8 o'clock in the morning on Saturdays. You don't have to be in San Antonio to catch it. You can catch it on the iHeartRadio app. He is also the voice of UTSA Athletics. And as we get closer or deeper into the summer, we'll be talking a lot more college football with him. Andy Everett, always outstanding, sir. Have yourself a great week.
Thank you. Take care.
Absolutely. Andy Everett. All right, Shannon, our poll question had to do with the NBA teams that lost and maybe people didn't expect them to lose. Which of the four teams has the best chance to get bounced early in the playoffs? What do we have?
That's right. We've got 12% now voting for the Clippers, 10% for the Jazz, 35% for the Knicks, and 41% for the Lakers.
Oh, not looking good for King James.
Yeah. Or LA.
Or LA. There's a part of me that would love to see them both bounced. But
I mean, we love a good upset.
yes.
Right?
But man, Adam Silver does not want Kawhi and LeBron both out in the first round.
Yeah, would we care about the West at that point?
It's gonna. Yeah, not nearly as much. Not nearly as much. Would it be Utah? Would it be Phoenix? Or all of a sudden now Portland making some noise in Denver? Shannon, outstanding as always. Thank you. Let's do this again in 21 hours.
I'm here for it.
Woo! 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 Dave Ayler, you gator hugging, cockroach, Madagascar hissing cockroach licking soundscape stylist. Have yourself a great Monday.
I'll try. Thank you.
All right. We will do this again in 21 hours. We'll have lots to talk about, I'm sure, tomorrow. Enjoy your Monday, everybody. Stay safe. Adios.